All right, you guessed it, graphing two-dimensional inequalities. You all know how to do the number line inequality, so we're going to work on graphing a two-dimensional inequality. And two-dimensional inequalities are going to look kind of like this. Well, let's make this an inequality. So we have 2x plus y is greater than or equal to 4. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to put this into slope-intercept form. So we're going to subtract 2x. So y is going to be greater than or equal to negative 2x plus 4. Okay, the next thing that we want to do is we want to look at the sign, our inequality. Okay, when you look at this sign, if we have a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to, we're going to end up with a solid line. If we have just a greater than or a less than, we're going to end up with a dashed or dotted line. Okay, so that's something you want to look for. So now we know in this particular example, we're going to have a solid line when we graph it. So let's graph it. When we graph this, we're graphing it the same way that we do a line. When you were doing slope, you were graphing lines, and we're doing the same thing here. So we know that our y-intercept is at positive 4. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll put our point there. And our slope is negative 2. So that means that I'm going to go down 2 and to the right 1. Then I'm going to go down 2 and to the right 1. And you can continue to do this until you run out of room, like I did. Now we're going to actually draw the line in. And I like to use my straight line tool. And let's draw our line. So there we go. Okay, that's what our line looks like. And again, like we said before, because we have the greater than or equal to component, we're able to draw a solid line. All right, now comes the shading part, because right now we haven't done an inequality. That's a line. To determine our shading, there's a couple ways that we do it. The first way that we're going to do this is we're going to choose a point anywhere on the graph that's not on that line. I strongly suggest that when you do this, you choose 0, 0 if it's not on the line, just because it's the easiest one to substitute in. So I'm going to pick 0, 0 and substitute that into my inequality and see if that point makes my inequality true. So I would have 0 is greater than or equal to negative 2 times 0 plus 4, which would mean that 0 has to be greater than or equal to 4. Well, that's clearly not true. So the point that we chose is not on the shaded side. But so you could see what would happen if you chose a point that was on the shaded side, because now we know it's going to be the other side of that line. Let's pick a different point that's going to be on the other side of the line, so you could see that that does work. So we'll choose a point here. It really doesn't matter what point we choose. So that's going to be the point 3, 2. So let's substitute that in. Negative 2 times 3 plus 4. So then we have 2 is greater than or equal to negative 6 plus 4. So 2 is greater than or equal to negative 2, which is true. That means that that point is going to be on the side of the line that's shaded. So we have to shade everything on this side of the line. And what that means is any point that's on that shaded side will be a solution to this inequality, meaning it'll make this inequality true. Now, I want to show you an easy way, and again, this is not necessarily that everybody's going to understand this right away, but I want to show you a pretty quick and easy way to tell where you're going to shade. Once you have this in slope-intercept form, all you need to look at is this, where it says y is greater than or equal to. Well, if y is greater than or equal to, I need to find a value of y that's greater than where my line crosses the y-axis. So my line crosses the y-axis here. So any of these values here above this line are going to make the statement true. So y is greater means I would shade all of this stuff above the line. Hopefully that kind of makes sense to you. So stick around, we're going to do another example in a minute. All right, so here's another example. And again, the first thing you want to do is put this into slope-intercept form. So we're going to do that. We'll subtract x from both sides. So I have 2 minus 2y is going to be less than negative x plus 6. Then I'll subtract 2 from both sides. So negative 2y is going to be less than negative x plus 4. Now I have to divide by negative 2. Okay, now remember, when you have to multiply or divide by a negative number to solve an inequality, you have to reverse the direction of the inequality symbol. So that means y is going to be greater than x over 2 minus 2. Okay, now that's the line that we're going to graph. So let's go to negative 2, which would be here. And our slope is, again, x over 2 is the same as 1/2 x. So our slope is 1/2, which means we're going to go up 1 to the right 2, up 1 to the right 2, up 1 to the right 2. And again, you can kind of see what our line's going to look like. We could go down 1 and to the left 2 as well. Okay, I'm going to get my straight line tool. Now again, remember what we said. We have to look at this sign to know whether we're going to have a solid line or a dashed or dotted line. And in this case, there is no equal to component. So that means this is going to be a dashed or dotted line. So I'm going to make sure we remember that when we're graphing it. So here's my ends. And we're going to make this a dashed line. So let's draw our line in. Okay, that is what our line is going to look like. Just going to slide it up here a little bit. All right, now we have to determine shading. So let's take our inequality. That's our y is going to be greater than 1/2 x minus 2. And let's pick a point. And again, like I said, you guys remember what point I said you want to pick if possible? Yeah, right, we're going to pick 0, 0. That's the point we want to check. We're going to check that point right there. And if that point's true, that means we're shading above the line. If that point is false, meaning it doesn't make our inequality true, that tells us we're going to shade below the line, but we would pick another point just to make sure. Okay, so let's substitute in 0, 0. So we have 0 is going to be greater than negative 2. And 0 is greater than negative 2. So that tells us that 0, 0 is on the correct side of our line. And then we would shade above the line. Now, hopefully some of you were saying, I already know which way to shade. I didn't have to put in 0, 0. Just the thing that I told you before, where you looked at this, and you said y is greater than. So you go to your line where you cross, and I want values of y that are greater than negative 2. Well, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, all these are greater than negative 2. So all those points would be on the shaded side. Okay, now you know how to graph a two-dimensional inequality. Thanks for watching.